In the meantime, on Capitol Hill today, tensions boiled over just days ahead of a potential government shutdown. But there's hope of avoiding that as the House passed its budget band-aid to keep funding flowing for a few more months. Congressional correspondent Lisa Desjardins is here with me now. Lisa, good to see you.
Good to see you.
So tell us about this plan. What does it do and how did it pass?
Well, it passed overwhelmingly just in the past few minutes. It needed a 2/3 vote to pass because they had to suspend the rules to do it. Now, let's talk about it. I know it seems like it's complex, but actually Speaker Johnson's plan is relatively simple. It's just novel. Here's what this proposal would do. It would effectively fund government in two parts. The non-controversial, less controversial agencies would be funded through January 19th, then others through February 2nd. Those agencies think of things like dealing with immigration, the border, abortion, all of those things that might take a little bit longer. What is not in this plan, notably, is funding for Ukraine, funding for Israel. It looks like Congress will go home without dealing with either of those two. This bill is on track now to move straight to the Senate. Johnson said this is not what conservatives want. He knows that. They wanted spending cuts. They wanted something for conservatives. But he said, listen, I've been Speaker for 3 weeks, and this is what we needed to do.
We're not surrendering, we're fighting, but you have to be wise about choosing the fights. You gotta fight the fights that you can win, and we're going to, and you're gonna see this House majority stand together on our principle, and we're gonna do that.
Just like former Speaker McCarthy, however, he can be ousted. And some conservatives who did take out Speaker McCarthy for doing this exact same thing said they're not happy, but they're not yet quite going to move against Johnson. Here's Bob Good of Virginia.
We believe he's a conservative. We believe he's a trustworthy, honest guy. And we did put him in the game in the fourth quarter when we're down 35-0, so we can't hold him to the same standards as the guy who got us to that 35-0 deficit. However, we don't expect him to come in and punt on third down, and that's what we think he's doing here.
It's definitely football season, but I'll use a weather analogy. This was stormy weather. This is a rainbow that has appeared.
Okay, so Speaker Johnson gets it through the House with help from Democrats. What's ahead in the Senate? Is it going to pass?
It looks like it could pass in the Senate. There is a question of timing that I'm going to come back to. But I want to point out something extraordinary that's happened here, an important alignment of leaders. Let's look at what Speaker Johnson had to do here. The new Speaker had to first align with Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader. Nearly every Democrat in the House voted for this bill, and they needed those votes. So then next had to make sure on board were the Senate leaders, Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell. And in fact, they are in line, all four of these leaders right now. Notably, Mitch McConnell sold this bill especially well, telling people this needs to be a win for the new Speaker. It needs to be a sign that we are enforcing this kind of stability, this kind of deal making. So let's back this now and hope that this will help us get through other things. Now on timing, the issue is the Senate clock's not good for deadlines. Any single senator can slow this down. Rand Paul often likes to threaten this. He has said he's still considering a slowdown, but usually a deal can be made. He usually gets something and goes along in the end, but we're watching that.
Something Speaker Johnson said, as you reported, really struck me. He said you have to fight the fights that you can win. What are the bigger politics we have to consider here?
It is good timing for us because we have a poll that is supposed to come out tomorrow morning, and polling isn't everything. But we thought this showed some important things about today, and we asked and were able to give you two of the results from that tonight that show us what's happening politically. First of all, we asked people, is it more important for Speaker Mike Johnson to compromise or stand in principle? And look at that, compromise, 67%. Even as he was saying we want to stand on principle later, he is compromising now, and this is enforced by 2/3 of Americans who want him to do that. Now, there's the other question, of course, over who would have gotten the political blame from all this. We asked, who would you blame more if there was a shutdown right now? Americans are generally split on this. Look at that, 49% Republicans in Congress, 43% Biden and Democrats. No shock. If you're a Republican, you blame Democrats and vice versa, but independents were 50-50. Basically, both parties had something to lose here. Behind the scenes, I'll say Republicans believe that a shutdown would have made their numbers far worse.
It's heartening to see that support for compromise, and you're seeing some of that compromise moving forward with this plan. But there were two other events I have to ask you about on Capitol Hill today that got a lot of attention, really got into physical confrontations. Tell us about that. What happened?
Right. We are a place where we believe in civil dialogue for all of these serious problems. But today was a sign that some in Congress have been going the other direction. First, former Speaker Kevin McCarthy, on his way to a meeting this morning in a crowded hallway, walked by Representative Tim Burchett of Tennessee, someone who voted to oust him. Burchett says that McCarthy They pushed him, shoved him, in fact, gave a shot to the kidneys with his elbow and hurt him. There was an NPR reporter there who noticed something and said she saw a shove. And here is what Tim Burchett told us later about his reaction to this.
You know, it's one of those deals that, you know, you just don't expect that kind of thing from an adult, especially the guy that was at one time the third person in line for the White House.
Now, I spoke to former Speaker McCarthy about this. Other reporters did too. He said he doesn't remember any contact. He thinks this is a misunderstanding and that certainly he didn't mean anything. It was an accident. Burchett feels the other way. Burchett is concerned that McCarthy actually will primary him and that this could be a political problem for him as well. Now, all of that happened. We weren't sure we were going to talk about that until something else happened today in a Senate committee room. In this room was the head of the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, and in front of him was Markwayne Mullin, a senator from Oklahoma, a new senator. These two have a history. They've tweeted at each other, the Teamster president kind of saying, you're a fake tough guy, Markwayne Mullin challenging to a fight in the past. But here's what happened when Markwayne Mullin brought up that tweet from the Teamsters president.
Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution,
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down.
Okay.
You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Actively.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
This would be funny, it would be a parody if it weren't so serious and we wouldn't have so many serious problems. Sanders said, listen, we don't need to add more contempt for Congress. Clearly there's individual contempt at this point now. I think one of the concerns here is that neither of these men right now is backing down, and it seems both may benefit politically, as do others from this atmosphere right now.
Here's hoping we don't see more of that. Lisa Desjardins, thank you for your reporting.
You're welcome.